you looking to become a Tier 1 operator in the gaming world? Elevate your games with Blacksite Studio Terrain.
Hey guys, welcome to the SitRep. Gaz here. We're up for another View and a Brew with a Present Arms Hobby Night. So, you've been following the project, or you've been following some of the videos. We've been working on various miniatures. Had some good times. Looking forward to continuing on with the project, really. I managed to get one done sort of in between. I had the painting bug after the last session, and that meant that I just couldn't help myself. I've managed to smash through another one, so I'll just put him onto camera now. This guy's one of the light support weapons. He came out really nice, really happy with him, particularly happy with the gun. This one I can see that the contrast paints held so much pigment that I would probably put a thinner layer over them just to ease them off if I really wanted to be a little more sort of realistic in the tones. But I like the sort of the desert trousers. Got some skin work on him. He's got a purple backpack with green hole. He's just chucked it all together, as you can see. It's going to be interesting to see how the weapon system works in the game. But yeah, really happy with him. So for me, that's 3. I know the team in America, and I say team, not individual, they're crushing it. So yeah, we're certainly rattling through them. And tonight we're going into a slightly different direction. Almost a non-com. So here we're looking at what I would call a dicker. So a guy with a mobile phone, the guy that keeps an eye on stuff. I'm not sure if there's a mechanism, because he's not armed, for him being used in the game. I'd like to think we can do something where he's like a secondary objective, propaganda, posting videos, etc. of the assault and the attack. It'll make for an interesting character for the GRS teams to go and deal with. All in all, a really nice mini. What I do like about it, I'll use a brush to point, is this guy's particularly fashionable. He's got the tears in the right places. So these are definitely going to be jeans. And, I reckon it's not too big a phone. Maybe it is quite modern. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, especially the screen side. I've not even thought about that yet. Keep it simple for now, and we'll see how much time I've got left at the end. So overall, I've got a guy here. We're going to be sticking with the contrast start point. So I'm looking at using the Black Templar. For the Black Templar, we're going to do some shoes. Maybe some Adidas stripes, the all white down the sides. I don't know if you've seen them. We're going to black out the jacket. And we're going to do some of the baseball cap in that colour as well. Then, as I said, we're going to use the white to sort of break it up. I'll probably use them to make the stringiness to the jeans as well. I'll see if it's too bright, and we might change that around a little bit. Hello, SitRep Podcast. That's probably G looking in, making sure I'm not screwing up and that it's working okay. In addition, I want the jeans to be a darker blue this time. So although it does look really light on the bottom, I'll just give that a quick shake. As you can see, I'm physically shaking. So that is nowhere near the tone that comes out. So we shall see how that goes with that one. And just to pick out some details on the jacket, so he's got some sort of frill work that runs around the edge here. And there's almost like a lining as well inside the jacket. So we're going to use a bit of red on that to break it up, because we know red and black goes well together. And see how that comes along. Now the cap, I think we might do the same thing, break it up with the red so it's not a uniform colour. He's got a polo shirt on here. I'm going to go for a white. I'm not sure how I'm going to tone down and give it the sort of highlights, go into the dips and everything yet. So what I'm thinking of is, this is a blue shade. White and blue generally do work well together, but I'll probably thin this down with a considerable amount of water. We'll see how we get on. Afterwards, as always, we'll go back to the skin, keeping the same formula. Bit of Bugman's Glow for the base, mixed in with some Cadian flesh tone. And if we want to bring it up further, depending how it goes, I've also got Kislev here as well. So yeah, I guess the clock is ticking. Time is a moving. 13 days is no longer 13 days. I don't know if we're down to 12 or not yet. I think we're getting close. Gee, how close are we on time? I think we've been adding up. Jim's done some awesome work on the transit sort of markers and such. So that's going to be really interesting to see how they've come out. He's even got technicals in there as well, the vehicles. It's looking really, really good. Looking forward to seeing all that going into the game system. So as we said, we're starting with a contrast black. So no water with this, just going to pull some of the excess off, and we'll go from there. So the good thing about today is G's been berating me for basically having two screens, which I never do because I don't own two screens yet. And today I have dug out a Kindle Fire and stuck that next to me so I can read the comments properly. At the same time I can see everything in the background of mine. So I kind of have two screens, just not the one she means. Cool, so we got some black on here, and let's get this the ball rolling on this. So I hope you're all having a pretty good week out there. We're at the midweek point now. Supposedly the worst day of the week, because you're so far from the weekend that when you started Monday you remembered what you were doing at the weekend, chilling out and such, and then you're still halfway from the weekend coming. So it's supposedly the worst day of the week. For me, Monday's definitely still the worst day of the week. Having that long to go to the next one. It's crazy times. If you've been keeping an eye on the site, there's been some, check out Facebook, there's been some new releases and such. Ralph's put up a post in relation to some new gear being played on a 6x4 table. It looks really cool, it's a nice table as well. Some lovely work being put into that. There's a mix of armor and such for the actual forces for the game. So have a wander over to our Facebook page. It'll help you keep you up to date on modern military releases. It's what we do. But yeah, so back on sort of the gaming front, everything's sort of coming along. There's a lot of time being put into the production at the moment, in the sense of the miniatures. Focus will change, obviously, once we get towards the end of that. And we'll start moving across to the board build. For anybody that's into all the board building such, that's going to be an interesting time. I can't remember, I think the board's going to be around 8x4. Don't hold G to that, because that's me, what I think we've said. And space allowing and layout, and once you got the scenery, subject to change, I think is the term. Like any good military plan, TBC or subject to change. Say good military plan. I'm not sure that's ever been a thing at all. So I'm going to keep glancing up at the camera, try and keep it central. I zoomed her in a bit more today, just to try and give you a little bit of a better eyes view. Hopefully that pays off. I'm not going to be too neat around the bottom. I can always quickly tidy that out with some white in between layers. But what I do want is the pooling to be in the right sorts of places. So here's the thing. Jim has done some really nice tops for a lot of these guys. I think I talked about it in the last one actually. Some of them are like football tops, and there's definitely some challenging painting requirements for a couple of them, such as there's one that's fully checkered in white and red, and don't get me wrong, he would be a really easy model to see on the table. There's another one with some choice colours straight out of Marty's repertoire of paints, and outrageous colour schemes that he loves, which made me chuckle. So I'm not sure which one I want to have a go at. I definitely want to have a go at one, then I can look at the models and pick which ones are short sleeved, sort of fit the ethos that they would look like that, have those colours on football jerseys, etc. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. It just shows how ad hoc the guys were that sort of went into the compound, really, because apparently there was like a big football match on that night, not international, like an Italian one or such, and a lot of them were watching it, and you'll see that in the film. I think that was a truism of the movie as they were moving through the area after they sort of came up on the drop shot and then moved into the compound on foot. In the movie, they're walking past a lot of homes. They're literally by the street side where the riots are going on. And the family's inside, the football's on, and the cheering, and because it was just another day. Just another day in Benghazi. AK-47 rounds into the sky, or not in this case, and the football was on. So everybody was at home watching TV. See, it does cover very quickly. You can see a lot of the shading already. If you want to do some highlight work, you can go straight in with a layer of paints over this once it's dry. It is crazy. It is crazy. I think it's just a really good tool, particularly on the shoes, because now let me get that. I don't want to put it out of focus. So now you can see the laces on the shoes. You can see the front sort of section. See a little line just here. That'll break up the side. That gives me a reference point to do me 3 little white stripes on the side. It's such a good bit of kit. So he's got like a crosshatch sort of hat on him. It's quartered, but I don't know if I want to go. Do you want to go red on the? I don't really want to go. You know what? Instead of splitting the colours across there, because I think that'd just look a little unnatural, I'm going to black out the whole of that, but put a red. I thought brim, is it called brim of the cap? The bit you tap to take it on and off. The bit that you can wear in various angles and poses, depending how gangster you want to be. And how much of a cool kid. And I'm not sure which way around it is these days. I wonder how many screw-ups we'll have today when I'm painting. There's normally quite a few. You'll see me go over something, then have to go back. Something will dry faster than I thought it was going to be because I've not thinned it, and it's all happy times. It's all challenging stuff. It's all part of the fun. It's all maybe, well, especially for the live stream side of it, you don't get a second chance. There's no pause, reset, start again. Oh, I'll paint the back of his head. Now the good thing about like that spillage that I've just gone over onto that part of his head. That's going to get painted with a base colour, so that's not as much of an issue. In comparison, I was thinking comparatively and in comparison at the same time. That bit that's on the brow of the cap, that will need to go, because the red might cover that with a black then, which is no good at all. But I'm going to leave that to dry, the red, before we put the red on. I'm just going to stay on the black, but I'm going to switch out brushes because there's some, not tidy work, but close-in work on the jacket that I want to get in amongst. So I'm just going to wet down this brush, make sure the bristles are good. It's clean. Obviously, the best way to clean a brush is not necessarily in your mouth, but most painters do. We all like to put the paint into our DNA. Ooh, somebody said hello. So, just being gentle around this edge. Red will give me some coverage, which is good. But I'm wary of how far I need to go with that. I'm trying to decide if this collar is part of the shirt underneath or if it's part of the jacket. It's actually difficult to tell. I think, you know what, we're going to go with it as being part of the shirt, just because I think it'll break up the model a bit better. And we'll go from there. Yeah, we'll see. The good thing is, if it isn't part of the shirt and I'm not happy with it, white is much easier to turn to black than if I decide it's the other way around. It's almost like you plan these things. I do sit down with my little tray of German heads covered in the various contrast colours beforehand and decide my colour schemes. And then at the side of me, I have a little sort of paint holder set that's for what I'm using now. Let's get underneath that arm, look. Let's get a load of the brush up for that one. So it's always handy to have something where you can break down the paints and keep them out for the model that you're working on, especially if you're doing like a long project. Now, everybody has their own way of storing stuff. There's everything from NDF. Well, there's all sorts really. There's custom ones, there's vertical stands, there's stands that you sort of angle the pots into. What I use is one of the cheaper versions, which is I don't know if you've been into a makeup shop and they have the nail polishes in the clear tiered sort of, they're like a cheap Perspex. I use them. I think they're really handy. They're not overly expensive. If they break, it's not an issue because you can always pick one up at Amazon, etc. Any of the other sort of sites like that, eBay. They're really simple. It's just screws and nuts. That's really good size-wise. So I've got real large ones at the back. I'll just show you the smaller one to see what I mean. So essentially, wow, that's really close, Cam. It's just tiers. And they're literally held together with a screw on one side and a ball nut on the inside, and you're done. The small one holds probably, let's hold that, 4, 6, 18 paints. And that's normally about right, I think. You know, you're looking at 15, 18 paints when you're doing this type of project, where you've got lots of different characters, lots of different colours. I think they're a really good buy. And they do much larger ones that are 5 tiers, 9 paint, 5 tiers, 1, 2, 6 tiers, 9 paints a tier, so that's 45 paints you're whacking on there. No dramas whatsoever. Cool, so we're jacketed up. We'll check the underside. I don't look like I've missed too much, but we'll check it again in a bit and see how it come on. So next I'm going to move on to the jeans while that dries fully. We're going for that contrast Ultramarines blue. We'll see how that goes. Quick shake. Even though it's contrast, you still shake because of the pigment. So yeah, in most situations nowadays, modern, the guys that would be out on the ground would have some sort of jamming systems for mobile phones, etc., for IEDs and things like that. This guy's obviously possibly another way of having him in the game would be as a potential initiator on the route back or on the way down. Or probably on the route back. If you don't take him out during the main game, then the risk goes up of an ID when the vehicles are moving back to the annex from the compound. I think that'd be potentially another way of using him as a sort of a side mission within the mission. Only having 6 guys would limit the options that the friendly forces have in what they can engage and how they can move around, depending on how many enemy are in the compound, etc. How early they get there might give them some reinforcements, because 17th Feb, which is the sort of the local military group, had a small number of members in a barracks within the compound. When I refer to compound and annex, the annex is the CIA black site, and the compound is what we were calling, or what's referred to as the sort of the diplomatic. It's not, well, I want to say outpost. It's not an embassy. It's like a diplomatic outpost, a drop short, and a place of stay over for when they were in that area dealing with certain things. So this blue's going down quite nice, which I'm happy with. I'm trying to be a bit more careful around where I want it to be white. Again, bringing it back into colour. This is quite a dark blue, so it'd be some work to rebuild the whites. This miniature is another one from the Spectre range, Spectre miniatures. They do some really nice stuff, as you've probably seen from the posts that we've already put up if you've had a look, or on some of our media sites. This one in particular comes from I think it's the MEAN, which I believe stands for Middle East North Africa. as it can be used either or. It's in the civilian range, and it's a great objective piece when you look at it. You could even double him up as a potential risk from other types of attack from bombing or such, because he's not actually carrying a weapon in hand. Just going to pull this excess out a bit. But definitely something. Sometimes I think we focus so much on the main forces of the game that we take away some of our potential unusual circumstances, and having this guy on the table would definitely give you some interesting options to play. So I'm quickly just going to clean this brush off. I'm going to dry out. Sorry if I keep talking. Hey Jim, welcome. I can actually read the chat this time, Jim. I don't have to stop and squint at the smallest amount because I've rocked out with a Kindle Fire next to me. So I'm watching Twitch while streaming on Twitch, reading your chats on Twitch while chatting rubbish about Twitch. I think I get lost in there somewhere. Jim, seen the technicals, the awesome looking colour schemes for the characters for the transit game? Looking good, man. I can see where the time's gone. Love it. Jim's so dedicated, he's on his lunch at work and he's still managing to get in an hour of watching Twitch. Awesome. Awesome. Unfortunately, this show being sort of a European time is more awkward for the guys in the US of A to catch. Hopefully we get some guys in the various countries within Europe that are able to tune in when they can and give it a watch. And if not, well, it's on YouTube. You can always catch up. We'll be using quite a lot of the contrast colours over the course of this. You can see that we stick with some staple ones as we do different models and such, but it'll give you some idea of how they sit. It might make you think twice about using them, but whether you take away that you want to or you don't, hey, it didn't cost you anything to find out. Well, set your internet and your computer and but you had all them anyway. I don't know if we've decided what the technical is, weapon-wise. Is it a Dushka? So we've got the technical on the back of, well, it's a pickup truck of some sort. I think we've done with Land Cruisers for the guys from the annex. Making sure I'm trying to keep my terminology straight myself, because that was referred to in a couple of instances. The film has them in something else. It has them in Mercedes and such, armoured ones, but I do wonder if that was sponsorship. Please use our vehicles. It's going to be a good film. It's a Michael Bay film and you can blow some of them up. Thank you very much. Oh, and here's like 6 to go with. I think there's even a G-Wagon at one point sat in the compound as they go in that they've apparently appropriated. So I'm just trying to make sure I've got right up under the jacket here because it's a bit of a blind spot for me from above. I do like this blue. It has sat down really nice. I'm doing a second layer around the jacket anyway, just to give it some shadow as it's towards the recesses. I'll probably do another quick layer again through the inside of the legs. So Jim's got the Dushka up on the transit. That makes sense when you think about it. The area, what you'd expect them to have. That's very cool. Very cool. I imagine that's going to put out some serious firepower. Somebody's not going to be happy, especially if they get the good news, as they say. So black's on, blue's on. See, these can go down really quick. It's just about having the right sort of right colours. Hey, Steve-O, 384. Thanks for popping on, man. So Jim says, yeah, two Land Cruisers. Rasmus is at work. He's just watching with sign language. I'll give you a thumbs up, Rasmus. So yeah, we've got a couple of people at work that are managing to squeeze in a quick watch, which is quite funny, which is great. Thanks for supporting us. We're all crazy people, aren't we? Let's be honest. So I'm just going to tidy up this cap and just a slight bit on this jacket before I put the red down. That'll give me time to... I'm probably going to wash these in the other blue just to see how they sit up, and then I can re-white the sort of the stringy bits. So let's have a look. So yeah, so we're going to go with hat, clean up that bit, and then we'll come back to the actual shoes. Rather than mess around trying to colour match, because I still need to get stuff that matches the what's it, Wraithbone spray. What we should have is one of them, you know, the sign language people, and people that watch at lunchtime at work could learn sign at the same time, or just subtitles. That'd probably be easier, actually. Just quiet while I concentrate. No shouting, you'll put me off. I found that I definitely have moments where I go pretty quiet, or slow my speech because I'm concentrating and trying to talk at the same time. I've mentioned it before, I'm sure I'll mention it multiple times in my videos. I am a bloke. There is no two things I can do at once. Other than eat and breathe. I think that's a genetics thing. But yeah, it's all coming together, it seems. Transit game and everything. There's some back and forth going on on the chat feed, which is cool. Bit of banter. So just cleaning up the brim of his cap here. Now, concentrate a second. It's going to be an interesting thing with the board. It's probably going to be where the start point is going to be. What do you guys think? Because we probably need a section of road outside for them to sort of stop in the vehicle at and then make their way in, because you just can't drive into that sort of place, I doubt, with the potential threats of, you know, shoulder mounted weapons, so RPGs, long barrel weapons, Dushkas. You know, they had some serious gear out there. Even the Journey's got threat of IED, so they've got the potential to take the guys out in a single hit, which would, well, that'd really affect the capability of the GRS to complete their mission during the game. It's going to be a real interesting one. To be honest, that's why we chose it. Even though this will just get covered by the Bugman's Glow, I'm just going to chuck a layer on anyway, just to dampen it down a bit. In and around the bits I screw up in. I'm going to say balls, but I don't really care for that bit yet. Cool. So, like I say, we're looking for a white top, red on the jacket. I'm not going to do the white top until the red's done, because I might need to repair it before I can put the white on anyway, which would just waste what I'm doing. Down here at the shoes are looking spangly. I'm going to thicken up this white and get those Adidas action on. No pressure, Marty. Yeah, so Jim's saying all the virtual pieces for the transit game are done, except for the civilians, which is cool. We're assuming the vehicles will make it to the compound. Well, yeah. I'll definitely put a spanner in the works if they don't even get there. That would be a crime in some ways, but funny in others. All the work goes into the table, everything, hours and hours, 13 days worth of hours into painting everything, doing everything, getting it all physical. And Jim, you doing the digital side of it, and that being the only part of the game that's used is the routing as they get killed on the way. Right, where to put? I'm going to do this sort of the straps across the shoe first. I'm trying to decide where to put the 3 lines. I think I did this as 3. So these could be laces that are overemphasized, or they could be the Velcro bad boys, the upgraded version. Stealth sneakers. You always got to have your best sneakers on when you're doing your dicking job, because you never know when you're going to have to use them to do legs, I suppose. So I'm trying to keep these tidy. It's always difficult working at an angle where you're trying to keep the camera in shot as well. So I'm looking at 2 or 3 screens at the minute. I say 2 or 3, it's only 2, but it looks like 3 sometimes. I can't remember where the first one is on this one. I think it's there. Even if that's the low point, as long as it's neat and I don't hit the middle one that's a high point, I might get away with them. That's where it looks like it should be. So we've got some shoelace. Shoelace? This is what happens when you drink too much pop before you come on the air. There are new vehicles at the compound. That is very true. The 17 Feb guys had a number of vehicles at the compound. So there is the facility for them to replace vehicles. But yeah, debusing. It could be a long walk on foot doing all that distance if someone gets took out early. And there could be, there's the route back as well still to think of. So I'm going with 1 stripe, 2 stripes, 3 stripes. Try to keep them close. Oh joy, I've got to do the inside as well now. I forgot about that. Because that's easily accessible. Oh dear Lord. What are you doing to me, Marty? This is you putting pressure on. One stripe. Run out of paint on the brush. No, run out of paint. Try to keep as little as possible on so I can have maximum controllability. Done it again. I'm going to put a bit of water in it just to give it a bit more legs. This is where it's too thin now. That's a good point. Let's just put a bit of white back in. Make sure we've got a good consistency and a point. There's a lot of heavy breathing going to be going on today if I'm doing these blooming stripe. I'm definitely not doing it on the jacket. I'll save that for a model that's in a different top. There we go. I'd be happy just to leave the outside, but I want to put pressure on Marty back as well. He's doing down the sleeves of his favourite dude with the good hair. Oh, cheers, dude. So I've just realised who Steve-O is now. He's my mate from work. He's the one I'm painting the Sentry model for and posting videos of it on YouTube. Just set up a channel today there. It's his idea, so if it all goes wrong, it's his fault. Cheers, Jim. Yeah, it's great to be part of the team. Obviously, being a fan from a distance for a while, known G and Dawn and Jim. I've known you for a while. Through boot camps on Tabletop, or what was Beast of War initially, and then through the girls as well. So yeah, we're gonna keep the trainers basic, he says, putting in 3 stripes. Oh man, there's some tough angle finger action going on here. This is not the place to get cramp. I need to be licking salt more. 1.5. Run out of paint. Deep breath. Come on. Third one. Get in there, son. Marty, you're painting a set of Adidas trainers up on somebody that's as bad to get to as this. I lay down that challenge. Cool. We have some Adidas trainers. I'm going to do a little grey highlight on them after, just to bring up the toes a little bit. But we can close the white for now, I think. So, definitely going to just chuck a wash into these creases on the trousers. Focus, okay. Let's bring that down just a touch. There we go. Should stay in focus a little better when it's at the lowest point. Yeah, that's better. Yep, so scared to death of this ink because I can't remember how it lays. I'm just going to chuck some on the palette, thin it out with some water, and see how it looks. The other thing is I'm trying to match the blue. Blue? Yeah. Which blue is it? I'm trying to match the Ultramarines blue a little bit. And to do that, we're going to give a go to Drakenhof Nightshade. Yeah. I worry about so much. There's no go backs on these things. There's either do it right or start licking your brush and spitting on it quick and getting it back off again. So it's got a thin layer on the brush. Let me just put that to one side. So you can see it's impregnated, but it's not all the way up to the tip. He said. I swear it all goes everywhere now. I'm just going to pull it top to bottom because I want to keep the high ridges. There we go. I've had to move it a little bit laterally now because actually the creases are really quite detailed, which is great because it gives me more opportunity to push the ink shade, whatever you want to call it, into those said recesses. And that should just offset it. I'm trying to stay away from the blue so I don't discolour the blue around the area. I'm okay to push to the edge, but we'll see. Try and decide the colour for the phone. Probably just, I don't want to do black because he's kind of all black already. Maybe he's been quite lucky and picked up one of them white iPhones out there. Could go with the old sort of pale blue Nokia. Oh, cheers Rasmus. Hey, got my fan club in tonight, it's great. Rasmus is like one of the tallest dudes I've ever met. Him and Jerry. I think you're taller than Jerry, are you? Not probably by much, but I think you've got an inch on him at least. I think Jerry's like 6'5". I think Rasmus is at least 6'6". He certainly represents the dynamic of where he comes from, being warriors of old. Cool. Right, so I'm happy with that. I'll let that dry and then have a look at it because I like to see what it looks like once it's dried. As you can see, there's a bit of shine there, but with a bit of white over the top, just a thin white layer, probably just to pick that out, should be right. Keeping that white, so now we're going to go for the red. There's a couple little places where I didn't go quite far enough with the black on the underside, so I'm going to have to repair that first. Which shouldn't take long. How are we doing for time? I forgot to look. Oh, not too bad. It's 40 minutes. It's freaked me out because I started at past. So when I looked at it, I thought I'd been going an hour and 10 minutes, and suddenly I thought, I'm dragging my ass today. I've not done a lot. So I'm just going to skim in at the bottom, hook up to the tassels a little bit. He said. Let's concentrate through this section. Problem is, I was about to say, problem is I might have to wait for it to dry, but if I'm neat enough, I might not have to. So you can see the slight discoloration where it's coming up just there. It's got a little peak, and it's actually got another one there that's just barely being picked up by the camera. Big shout out to G for pointing me in the direction of this camera. It's not overly expensive and definitely is good for the job that I need it for. I've really started to enjoy chatting and painting. It's actually reinvigorated my hobby in many ways, which was a real surprise because I'm not normally one to sort of go out into the public eye in that sense, and then suddenly now I'm looking at posting videos. It's yeah, it's been really nice, a really nice transition. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty of friendly enemy forces is going to be quite interesting. We've got the DS security guys. That's done now. I'm not sure we've picked out models for them yet. That's something that it'd be good to get some feedback on. What you guys think as well. It's always good to get the community in and see what sort of models are out there. So I'm going to jump in now and do the white of the shirt. No, I said I wouldn't, and there was a smart reason why, because I need to do the red first. So just while that bottom edge dries, I'm going to paint the cap up. So a quick reminder of what we're doing. We're going to chuck in, ooh, that was close, look, it's partly open. Just a quick look around. No, there's not. Blood stains literally all over the place. So a bit of Blood Angels red. I've got two reds when it comes to contrast. There's like a more muted one and a bright one. I've no idea which ones this is because I've forgotten. What I do know is when I looked at it on my little template of heads, this was the colour I thought would be better. So I was going to start down here, which is why it went to there, but in fact I'm going to do the brim of the cap. Why? Because it'll be easy to repair if I'm not happy. Yeah, this is the bright one, which is good because that's the one I wanted it to be quite punchy. I know G wants to be able to identify them fairly straightforward. Jim, I was really tempted to do this guy in a red striped black jacket. You evil man. But he had short sleeves, so I talked myself out of it with that. Which means I'm definitely going to do it, I just don't know on who yet. Oh, unless Marty's going to do it, I need to find out what colour Adidas he's going, because I don't want to double up. You would never have two guys going to the same, compound assault wearing the same clothes. It just wouldn't happen. They're all too fashionably sensible for that. It only happens in films. Maybe the football jerseys that way, if it's a particularly popular team. Oh, alright, interesting. So, need to get to the underside. You see the underside? Without screwing his face up too much. Yes, I'm on the small brush. So this might just go out of focus as I put it down to the bottom. So I've got much better support to push it around. Then I'll bring it back up in a second. Or 3. Maybe 5 or 7. Maybe a bit longer actually. Cool. Yeah, I like that. It's quite muted. What I'm going to do is just going to push it around a bit with some water. So just put some water, got rid of the red off. And essentially I just want to thin that down just a little here and there so it doesn't sit too dark. The good thing is we can always go back over it with actual layer paint. I keep saying it, it's such a good mechanism to have. Right, so let's get some on the brush. Cheers, Steve. Get some on the brush and let's have a go at this jacket. Now, there's so many modern periods that are available now in rule sets. I do wonder what people's favourites are based on. Is it just the models you can get, or is it actually the period that appeals to you? I have to admit, being a Brit and the new British contingent that's just come out of Team Yankee, I'm finding them a bit sexy. I say a bit, I'm finding them very sexy. Challengers, warriors, some really nice looking British military units in there. Yes, it's got a Lynx. Enough said. I think they're Mark 7s. I know that particular aircraft well. So does Steve, as we've both worked on it. I imagine there is a potential that they do Apaches eventually, because to be honest, we got them like, well, at unit level, I think they got them at 2004, 2005, and they were training on them before that. So that'd be an interesting addition to your British forces, wouldn't it? So even if his head goes out of shot, the idea is I want what I'm painting in shot. I promise that's the truth, and it's not just that I noticed the head was out of shot. Yeah, see, Steve no links. They had tow, so they have a tow sight on top, which is a really basic system inside when you actually use it, but it's unusual to have a missile at that stage that is basically on a wire, fly-by-wire, rather than fire and forget. So fire and forget is where you get a lock, it registers a lock, it identifies a target, and the software in the mechanism is good enough to keep it moving at the enemy, at the target, potentially adjusting to its position as it moves. And then tow is old school, keep the X marks the spot, X marks the kill, keep the X on target, and let it go. A lot different. It shows how, that's me, how we've moved in time and such. It's crazy when you see the technological jumps in wars. You know, so many people forget that jet fighters were actually in the air by the end of the Second World War, before the end of the Second World War, and in engagements. You know, it's so scary, it's so amazing at the same time. The emphasis suddenly gets put onto them, and everything gets accelerated when budgets and economies suddenly disappear into the treasury of the ministries of defense, or whatever that country has. It's an equivalent. What I do like is a lot of the technological advances that they mean. Some basic aspect can be applied to other areas. I came across a company in the UK. I didn't know they were UK initially. So on one of the up-tours, we got issued what's called lifesaver bottles. And they're water purification bottles instead of using iodine tablets, when iodine tablets were sort of frowned upon in the military, our military anyway. And the lifesaver bottles are sort of a... It's going to be a lot of clicking here while I lick my tongue. How to best describe them? Some sort of cylindrical polymer that's made up of something like 1 billion microscopic holes, so it has a real high filtration. Doesn't do salt, but you could literally dunk it in dirty, mucky, leaf-filled water, pull it out, had a pump on top, and you just ratchet that pump about, and then the next thing you got clean water. It's just an amazing bit of kit, really. Absolutely amazing. Couldn't get my head around it. The other thing was, its application then was scaled up to, another click, jerry cans for vehicles, the type that'll fit in most of them. Yeah, as Jim says, iodine's not good for long-term use. Oh, time for a quick slurp. I don't know what you're drinking out there, guys, but have a slurp if you've got one. Today's beverage of choice is a certain fizzy, dark-coloured drink brand that has 0 in the title. Because I don't want to be doing advertising that you're not allowed to do. You might get in trouble for that. Cool. It's actually looking quite good. That was me looking around the red. I do like the red contrast to the black jacket. It's quite nice. Jacket itself's done a lot of the work for me, as you can see. Even the back of the jeans, where you can see the highlight that's gone in, where I pulled it out a bit. Looks good. Front of the jeans, in the area where it's torn, you get that nice discoloration. I think what I'm going to do there is I'm just going to highlight just a little bit up with the white while I've got it. So I'm happy with the red. This looks like it might be a short one. Can't do this too fast, I get in trouble. So this is the first night I've actually put a second model onto a coin base, because I was of the understanding that I've been dragging my heels on everyone I've done up to yet. So I didn't think I'd get that far. And it may very well be the first night that I need the second model, which is fine because the model box is only over there and it'll take me a minute to glue it together, but yeah, we'll see. So I could always light a slice of C4 on fire and boil the water, just don't stop the fire to put it out. Well, yeah. That's definitely not the British way of doing it. I don't think we don't know what C4 is. We have hexi blocks for burners, and that's about it. Cool. So I'm going to do this white. So I'm going to harden up the colour. It's just going to be very straightforward because I'm going to wash it with a blue wash, and then come back to it and re-highlight the white. Because I've thinned this right down, I'm not going to the trousers yet, where I want it to be. The good thing is the cream's actually a good underlayer to give me some sort of natural shading as a start point. I'm very wary of this area because I've got the face to do. His neck is in there, so there's a good chance I'm going to screw up the collar. So I'll paint the collar after I've done the skin. Yeah. Just want a good coverage, making sure I get it into all the recesses without screwing up, basically. Coming back to the phone, as I say, I want to contrast to the two. Uncle Sam's misguided children. We want you. No, not you. Jim, one thing I couldn't remember is the UAV. Is that going to feature at all in either the transit there or the transit back as a mechanism? For those of you that are not sure, in relation to the story that we're doing, they did get a UAV up on site. Not initially, but it wasn't a pred. It was just an unarmed drone. Whatever you want to call it. Unmanned air vehicle, you know. Just making sure he doesn't pop out, keep moving it around. So there is the potential with some of the gear they might have had to tap into that for visuals and such, which might help either in the actual game or the transit back, I'd imagine. I don't think it would have, because if we're playing it that they set off straight away, the timeline's skewed to what the movie is, where they were delayed for 35-40 minutes. I say the movie. The movie is a fact. That's all right. It just needs a bit there. The movie did have some of the guys from the incident as part of the team to try and keep it realistic, but we'll see how that goes. I really like the white. That white's quite nice with the cream underneath. So I might just go back in with the cream into the creases that's thin to darken it down and maybe run the edges rather than use the blue, which I think might overpower it at this point. UAV, I've heard about it. What did it do? Alright, so that's the question. So the UAV was patched into the annex that the CIA were in, and that gave them eyes to get in touch with the GRS guys and give them information, it seems. So I think it'd be more prevalent for the one back. I'll just get these white sections done. These are really thin lines. So concentrate. fact, Jim, have you watched the film yet? I know you hate to, but I just thought I'd ask. See that Dunkirk's just come on Netflix? That'll probably break you every time. Ah, okay. So no Hidden Forces anyway. Yeah, they've come alright. I like that. Just make sure it's in shot. Just put my hand behind it to give him some real pop the colour. So I do like the white. I do like the trousers. You know what? Those trousers are done. Normally I have to go in and lay a highlight, but with that darker blue, it's really tucked nicely. You can see all through this section here that the pigment's being pushed around into the groin area, the top of the buckle, sort of the, what the hell do you even call it? Where you button yourself up and try not to catch your nutsack when you zip up, basically. That bit there. And on the back, again, just these lovely creases on the back of the knees have given it some life. Oh, cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, actually. Oh, yeah, that would scare the insurgents, actually. Yeah. Mind you saying that, I don't know how low they'd risk flying it. But it just being on site would be a good piece of psychological warfare. So happy with the white, happy with the white. Done the jeans. I'm just like the jeans. I'm really happy with. They've come out really nice. The jacket's really good. The reds are quite. Oh, look at that. Always check, Gareth. Always check. So like that's like mistake number. Oh, I shouldn't have said it. It's the beginning of the end, is what that is. The end of a perfect record. He says. Wow, we're coming up to an hour already, so that's gone quite quick. That has gone quite quick. Button fly. You've never had a button fly. So it's a fly that's got like 5 buttons, maybe 6. You can always tell the ladies' ones, I think, because they're on the opposite side. So I don't understand why. Maybe it's just to be able to tell apart. It is crazy. Everything's crazy. Cool. So we're going to go with the grey in here just to highlight them up because I really like the trainers. I actually think they're a focal point just because they've got the white laces. So rather than leave them as a flat black, I'm just going to pull a... He says looking for a colour that he didn't plan to use because it's just popped into his head. Oh, come on. This is supposed to be in an order. So I'm after one of the base greys, which is currently not living where it should be. And there's only one person's fault that I can be because I live alone. So it's me that's done it to myself. Where are you hidden? Come on. Ashen grey. Dawnstone grey. So 5 minutes of this video is going to be spent of me looking through colours for a colour that I should know where it is. That's probably sat somewhere else. I've definitely not took it anywhere. Oh, this is crazy. You know when you're rushing to look for something to the point where you probably just keep looking past it? I'm definitely in that zone. Right, I'm going to come back to it because I can't see it. I could use one of the greys, I suppose. Yeah, I'm not doing it now. I'll come back to it. I'm going to go for a bit of red. We're going to pop up the hat just a touch. So I want a nice strong red. So I won't be off camera for much longer because I know where that one is. So it's quite a strong red, quite a light red. So it should bring this up quite nice. Evil Sun Scarlet. I wonder what they designed this paint to be used with. Hey. So this is back to, I do believe that the layers work really well onto the contrast for these ones that I use. I suppose the point we're trying to make with the game this time is, in fact, one thing I will do when it comes to time to put in the game on, I'll speak to the guys and we'll see about posting a link to the actual action report, the after action report, because there was an investigation after it in relation to the unfortunate death of the ambassador and a number of members of the diplomatic compound. It looks a lot at the shortfalls, and as is always sort of the case when a VIP would be a casualty, the team's got out to investigate, and it'll give you some nice points of reference and backstory. Now, the document's very long, but the good thing is I can just pull out the relevant areas, which is, it's an interesting read, if I'm honest. It's nice that it's very matter of fact. There doesn't seem to be too much embellishment, as you can imagine. It was done very recently after the incident. Very recently? Is that even a thing? Very soon after. So some of the information, I mean, at the end of the day, what's said is said. What's put into a report's put into a report. There's elements of it that are blacked out, as you'd expect, with the agencies that were involved. The equipment for the GRS specifically is not stated. The different strengths at the various areas, be it the initial strengths at the compound and the strengths of the GRS that went out there, numbers wise, is accurate, or as accurate as we can believe, because it's in the report. So that's a good thing. It does give you a lot of valuable information. I'm just going to run the brim of this cap again to try and lighten up just the edge. Nearly. And grab some white and just chuck it in. So I'm always wary of white because I don't want to pink it up either. But I do want a definition just to this. It's a nice, he's got some real shadow here. His eyes are very deep under that hat. So I'd like to just get that to pop just a little bit. Not even in shot. Quick check to see if I was in shot. Thankfully I was. Surprisingly I was, more like. If you've watched the show before. So again, we did a bit of a highlight here. I'm just going back over those areas quickly. I mean, the jacket does its own thing, but there's almost no crease in here. As in, there's a single crease to the left and right of that area. So just bringing it up just a touch is going to do it the world of good. And then quickly just pick out sort of every third or so. There's some areas where it sort of comes out more, such as here where it's angled out. Then it angles back into sort of the shadow there. Same again here. And it should just give us a bit more of a flex and a flow to the jacket, which is cool. Sweet. So yeah, he's coming along nicely. It looks like he's in an old bomber jacket. That's very cool. Right, so the red can go back away into its home, because I can't find the home of what... Hey, I found it! Mechanicum Grey. Standard grey. It was literally where it should be as well. Except on the slightly further along. Ooh, another message. Oh, I've just realised what that is. So I have Alexa, and that's what's happening. So my speech must be so bad at points, just getting a quick swig now, that my what is currently acting as my chat thinks it's Alexa. Cool. So I'm going to grab a bit of this stuff, chuck it on the pallet. Put that back for now. I know where you live. I know where you live. I mean, some big events are coming up, I think. Historicon this year, I think, is going to be a big one. So the basing option, Steve, G's chosen to do, they're just clear acrylic bases. Because they're going to be moving around a compound that's going from tarmac to road to sort of broken ground to concrete to grass. There's even a pool there with a poolside. They've gone with a clear acrylic so it shows through to what the what area they're stood in reflects. And that makes things a lot easier when it comes to the timeline as well. I don't think that was the deciding factor, but it's definitely something that's good in some ways. So we're just touching around the tip of the shoe, just giving the point of it and the inside of it a bit of light. This one's more even. I've still got to go have some food yet, because I got in reasonable, but then I wasn't hungry. You know, when you get home, you're just not that hungry. So I didn't have anything, but this is going to be like 2 hours. What are we at? We're just over an hour. Yeah, it is a good way of doing it. It's really good for board games and stuff as well. In fact, there's a couple of good ways of doing it for sort of board games and such, and that's I keep making that noise with my mouth. I bet it's on the video the whole time. Just let me concentrate while I go down this one next to the red, because I want a clear definition between the two. He says. Yeah, I actually didn't screw that up, which is pretty impressive for me. You can sort of take a photo and print off what is the same pattern as the boards, which I've seen done with some board games that has the same sort of pattern all the way around. Or you can literally build it and base it like the board. So regardless of where they stand, it generally it fits in. So I've got some really nice, clean visuals now, as you can see when we look at this. So I've thinned down my grey. We're going to go back in and we're going to hit up some of them. On this occasion, I'm just going to run up and down the edge of them. Because it's so thin, if it goes into the recess, I'm just wet my brush like that. And as you can see, it just immediately pulls it clean again, which is nice. Whereas the bit you've left on the high ground will eventually dry and hold the pigment, but it'll be much more subtle, which makes for a cleaner sort of transition colour, which is nice. Careful. That's been quiet for two. That's probably the quietest I've been since we started. Hopefully, if you've lasted this long and your ears are not bleeding, I'm doing something right. Oh, Jim, lunch is almost over. I hope you've eaten, man. I hope you've not just been sat listening. I hope you've had some scran. Oh, that's a military term. Scran, food for us. I don't know. Go on, Jim. What was it called? How many years did you say it was ago? That was 30 years ago when you were wearing green. In fact, would you wear green? I think America's different, isn't it? You get different. I've seen where they have that blue and grey sort of checkered stuff. It's based on nothing to do with camouflage as much as is it the units that you're with, or different orders of dress. How does it work? This is me holding you up now. You need to go. You need to get back to work, and I'm going to start asking you questions. Military uniforms 101 with Jim Oriskini. I think that's the next. That's the next podcast right there. Once you've finished everything else that you have to do. That'd be quite a good one, actually. We could do, if people would be interested and comment and such, maybe a variant paint series where we go through different uniforms and such. Wow, that's really opening myself up for some work if I'm doing the painting side of it. So this is beginning just to grey out the jacket just a little bit and give it some more detail, which is cool. Because I don't want it jet black. I mean, hell, it's a dusty environment for a start. So we're just roughing it up. Usually green. That digital camera's way before my time. I don't know. I think Jim tells me fibs sometimes. Pretty sure you're still in blue and white and carrying rifles and muskets, eh? Got to get those shots fired across the bow just as he goes to lunch, so he don't have much time to formulate a response. G was jumping out of planes. Nobody in their right mind jumps out of a plane. Well, unless you have to, I suppose. Paratroopers. I don't know what their motto is. I know, is it Rangers lead the way? It'd be interesting to get the mottos as well. Because there's so many different elements. Navy SEALs, Green Berets, Rangers, Marine Corps. Well, Semper Fi is the one that you always hear in the movies and such, but I don't know if they have a sort of a battle motto as well. Poor Jim. Hey, you're the tech savvy one. You're the one that's in with all the technologies. It's me that's the one struggling with that type of stuff. Cool. So I broke up the jacket a little bit, which has come up nice. It's just a dark spot here on the shoulder, which essentially wouldn't be there because if the light's coming from above him. I'm just going to look down on him now and check that we've covered most of it. Because it's thin, it's not too bad. It doesn't look as haphazard. So if you compare that to the cap now, you can see the cap's very sort of flat looking colour-wise. The grey just gives it a bit of something to sort of break up the flat tones. So we're just going to chuck a bit on the cap as well. Then it looks like it's going to be skin. Skin and... Oh, I should do something with the mobile phone. Maybe I could put a little blue square on the inside of it and then put some sort of clear coating on. Party a mate. Alright. That's a private joke, Steve. You're not allowed private jokes here. So our core's Remy. The Remy core is Arte a Mate by Skill by Fighting. And yeah, Saturday I'm at a function, which is why I may not be at the next podcast. That's 2 in a row, get in trouble. I go out so little, and yet as soon as I join, I need to do like 2 events. It is crazy. But once they're out of the way, it should be back to normal running for me. And I can get properly back into the podcasts and such, which I really enjoy doing because it's always nice to have bants with my crazy American friends. I really should turn up on 4th of July. Go down like a lead balloon, that. Still trying to decide with this shirt. Don't know what to highlight, whether to highlight it or not. So the collar I'm happy with is white. So as in, we're going to go with that as being part of the shirt, make it into a polo shirt. So I'm going to grab a bit more white, tidy that collar up. That's coming back to having the little stand Everything's in it pretty much, I'd say, except for the grey that I knew where it was but wasn't there. Cheers, Jim. Have a great day, buddy. Hope it's not too tough and the time goes quick. Oh, that leaves us with one of my work muckers, which is dangerous. You're not allowed to do anything bad on here, Steve. It is public and it is not just me. In fact, G is armed, so she will just fly over from America and light your ass up, I think is the correct terminology. And if not G, there's Marty. Marty's a good shot. G's a good shot. I imagine I have lots of friends that are good shots. Dawn, I don't know if Dawn's ever fired a gun or not from the team. I imagine Oriskini is more than capable of putting a round or two in the right place. So I've just picked up just under sort of the recesses and just over them. Try and give that cream a bit of an opportunity to come through. So you can see the shadowing just a little bit, which is kind of cool. Collar. I need to angle this for the collar. Can you tell I'm concentrating? Oh, that's a really bad hand position. So I'm trying to use my fingers here to rest my fingers on to give me a stable platform. And then I start shaking when I do, which is quite funny in a really bad way. Am I in shot? Yeah. So I have a white pad, and it is literally a lined pad with a black cover that I'm leaning on, which is over my cutting tile, one of the green cutting tiles that's all marked out, different sizes and shapes and different distances. And it's quite good because it just gives me a point of reference. When I've set the camera up, that's the middle of my pad. I know if I've got the model visually here, which tends to be around the middle, it's generally in shot. It's really helped me because it's limited my maneuverability. Whereas when I had the green pad, even though that is marked much more clearly, I struggled so much more with just doing it on that than I do on this. Either that, I just got used to not moving around as much. It just takes a little time, I hope. Quick camera check. But yeah, really looking forward to the game. Really looking forward to watching the stream when it goes out. I do wonder how long the stream's going to be, because it's going to take a while. Obviously, it's going to be done in stages. The transit game, the transit back, I imagine will be separate stages. It's the table game that's going to be really interesting, and how long that's going to take. Because they'll have to film. I say it is we, but I won't be there. So they're going to have to probably film it all at once when they've got everybody. It's going to be a good day. Food, fun, and firepower rolls. Cool, happy with that. Just need to do a bit more on that cap. So I'm happy that the top's highlighted. I'm just going to drag the lines where it breaks to highlight them all the way down. Just the line though, on both sides of it. He says, so there you go, there's number 2 at least. Just talking about being comfortable and on camera, and I just gotta push my elbow up off the side, and the next thing I do is put it out of shot. Is it karma? Is it just being a moron? Either way, it's ancient history now. It's all 7 seconds ago. That's like painting. When you make a mistake, you could literally have a Teddy's out the pram moment, like a massive one. I know I would in the past, but since then I found it so easy to repair stuff. Why bother? I've gone for a white here. This is dangerous. I just want to pull a little bit So you could just see that's just made it pop a little bit. Just bringing up that grey just a touch with a bit of the white at the top. It's just another way of me emphasising the fact that the light points above him, I hope. One more. There we go. Yep, happy with that. Let's just do a quick check. It's a little too hard transitioning the greys there from the grey to black. Overthinking it. These are not meant to be uber detailed. They're meant to be good tabletop standard. One thing I've not done is that arm. I've just realised. As I say, normally I check over the model at the end. You're kind of looking at it all the time anyhow, but sometimes you get a bit blind to it. So there's a couple of places where I just want to... There's way too much grey. So straight back in the mouth, pull off the excess, then spread it up to even it out. There we go. I was on the wrong side of the grey. I'd gone to the thick side. So I sort of keep one half thick for straight line work and one half that's well watered down. So yeah, literally this here's quite a... It says again doing... It's thin this time though, so you'll see me move it now. It's a real highlight point, but pretty much forgot to do it. Getting old. Lucky I can see the model anymore. There'll be some guffawing going on in the team now because of some not so spring chickens. Dry brushed anything? I wouldn't consider it dead at all because that's a really easy way of taking contrast and doing the same thing I'm doing now. I'm just essentially choosing where to put it here. A dry brush is more of a sweep. Definitely fur and such, stuff like that would definitely be something I'd use it on. It was used to great effect on the new Star Wars Legion sort of B1 robots. I saw a guy do the contrast and just do a dry brush over it. Exactly what it needed. It's back to, if you know the techniques and you're good at them, whichever techniques they are, do them. You know, it's about... so, thinking about it, it might be too dark. So I'm just going to put some Screaming Skull into the recesses on the white, especially around the top collar, because there's not enough of a breakup. Yeah, when looking at that, that'll give me enough of a contrasting. Dry brushing is about, if you want to get armies up quick as well, if your army's got lots of detail on it, you can often get away with dry brushing because it's very sharp details. If you've got flat panels, then yeah, it's going to be more problematic. So there's lots of... It's having tools for the right tools for the right job, isn't it? It's like anything. So this one's a modern show, Steve, and all you guys out there. So we talk mainly about modern war games on the podcast and such. Kit and equipment. Excuse me. There's a lot of ex-military experience, some current military. There's huge enthusiasts for the genre, I want to call it. Let's go, let's climb down this line. Cool. Yeah, so there's a lot for the genre. And it's a great range. I mean, loads of stuff are coming out all the time for it. So it's constantly growing, constantly seeing new stuff. There's different theatres of war coming out. Different models that are starting to filter in. Because there's a few companies do sort of the World War II, which is sort of early modern from what I understand. Korea, bolt action, making that noise with my mouth again. It gets on my nerves. It must get on your nerves, guys. Yeah, there's. So I'm just going to feather down this edge with a really thin layer of this to sort of give it some shadow towards the jacket. Yeah, bolt actions brought Korea out. Vietnam's well supported. Let's go in here. A lot of the more modern military. Falklands, I'm not so sure. There is stuff out there. I doubt it's as mainstream as your World Wars, your Vietnam, Korea, etc. Iraq, I'm talking a lot of modern gear. Jim's done some lovely stuff recently on the Iraq, so a lot of the, I want to say 90, was it 91 or 93? Did some early Iraq stuff. It's on the back videos. So if you're interested in doing the desert sand color and that, he's put a video up where he paints some of the models, a lot of the armor and stuff that he's got for that, and they come out really nice. So he's got some good stuff on that. But yeah, it's interesting to see how it all comes together. So yeah, Rasmus, another tool in the toolbox, good for places where you want harshness. You know, it's, you know, like, never put yourself down, Rasmus. Painting's hard enough as it is. You're not a bad painter. It's just about getting the paint on the model, getting it onto the tabletop, and being, you know, happy with the standard that you're at. It's we all do what we can. My friend Gary, who's a really good painter, over time that he paints an army, he gets better, which is really quite funny. He did like a sci-fi army, I think it was Space Wolves, I want to say, and his first models were good, and then when he got to the end, he was excellent, and he had to go back and start again. And it was like the evolution of a painter. It was really interesting to see how much, and he was just learning through forums, learning through videos, just getting better and better, and yeah, he outstripped himself, which was a painful experience for him. Right, now the hard bit is, this collar's white all the way down, and now that I've set a tone of having sort of the cream in the recess, I'm going to have to do it on the collar. So I'm just thinning it out, but I'm mixing it to the point where it hopefully will hold its shape, so that I'm not going to be painting the black again with a cream. Right, breathing time. Get your breathing sorted. Is that a bit of the knee I've missed? Ah! Balls. Oh, that might be the first balls. So a little bit of blue, literally just noticed. You can't see it from the front at all. Can't see it from the side there, can't see it from there, can't see it from there. Can you just about there? I'm trying to get it on camera for you. Stupid thing, just in there. That white line there is literally a millimetre wide. I've measured it, I've got calibrated eyes. Correction carried out. I can move on. But if I leave it, sometimes I'll forget, as I've said before. I don't know if they had any jamming equipment actually well, I can't see them having jamming equipment. They weren't carrying physically anything big enough. Their vehicles were not made to carry the various countermeasure suites that are available to the US military. So I don't know if the compound would have had it potentially. The annex might have. I don't think the compound wouldn't have had it. So it's just not meant to be for that. But the annex might have had stuff. That's cool. I feel like he should have a symbol on his cap, but that's definitely for another day. Because how are we doing for time, guys? Half an hour left. It's going to be a quick skin job. Cool. So I'm happy with the shirt. I've got enough discoloration now that it's clear where things are. which is what I wanted. What I'm going to do, just to sort of, because it's a personal thing, Sentry is a different subject, Steve. You'll have to ask me tomorrow. So I'm painting Steve a Sentry model. Did I do what with him? Go on, I'll answer the question. I'm not sure. Obviously, I didn't see the message until after. I'm just putting some dots, essentially, where the button would be. I've just caught it underneath, so I'm just going to tidy the underneath bit. So there, we've got the hint of a single button now. Not that anybody's ever going to see it, but it's a thing. It's leave me alone. We all have our issues. And it's there now. I'm happy it's there. It looks like I can button it up. So, happy with the shoes. Done. Just a bit more grey actually on that one shoe on the right. The tip. Stuff it, we'll do both. Cool. So, happy with his trainers. He's banging out some cracking Adidas's. He's got his 502 Levi jeans on. That's the deliberate 502. Oh, you did that with Sentry. I read it as a question. Yeah, I do that with everything, dude. You should see me on some of the other videos on here. It's by no means consistent. Consistently bad. This area of the phone. Do I do it now or do I do it? I'll do it after I do this thumb. So we're going to jump in to the flesh. Straight in with a thin layer of Bugman's Glow. Let that dry, and I'll probably have a play with the phone at that point while that dries up. So I'm just going to chuck some of this on the palette. Need a reasonable amount because although I'm going to thin it, I still want to carry enough pigment to get a good coating in a couple of layers, or at least one. One pass is probably too few to get it to be smooth. So the less passes you do, I find that the less smooth the sort of the texture is. So if you get it thin enough that it doesn't actually fully cover in one hit, and you're doing brush strokes essentially. Into his ears, up to the cap. Keeping in mind that we're going to throw a wash on this as well of Reichland Flash Shade. So you really need to be aware. Get an even coverage. Because if there's a light spot, it's going to shine through when the Flash Shade goes on. Because you've missed a bit or it's thinned to the point it's not took the colour. I found it difficult. I mean, the film has a certain skin tone that's the predominant one. It is North Africa. I'm not sure I got the skin tone sort of spot on. What I do like is I'm trying to diversify it with different mixtures of water, and when I do the mix, I try and be inconsistent with it up to a point. So there is some variations in skin tones. But it should be quite a mix with essentially what is three painters doing skin on different models that are in different places. Marty and G smashing it out over in the US of A. Will have whatever mixes they're using to their ratios that they want and the believed skin tones. So hopefully we'll have a nice variation throughout the militia, which I think would be a lot better than having a very consistent colour. I think that cap sat really high on his head. This guy needs some education on how to wear caps. Don't worry, we've got a guy that's got a anorak around his shoulders, and he's rocking a cap sideways or something as well, which is quite funny. What I like about this model the most, I'll have to paint a hand and a face. Because the other one's stuffed in his pocket and he's not wearing... So the other ones I've had up to yet have been totally shirtless with trousers on and bare feet. I've had flip-flops going on with toes sticking out. Admittedly, the guy's neck is a tough spot because of the collar, just about in shot. Into this neck area here. So I've angled the model rather than tried to get the brush to the angle, if that makes sense. If you're in the military, you move your rifle around your head, not your head around the rifle. Yeah, that's right. Double check. Quick sanity check. And then I'm just making sure I'm up to the top of the cap, because like we talked about, that recess, you can just see there's a little paleness at the top of it. The good thing is the wash will get anything that's right at the top that I can't reach. The bad thing is I don't think I've got all of his neck yet. So again, just find a good angle. I'm just going to dab it and use the body of the brush. And that was a mistake, so I got some on the collar on the inside. So lick and pull, back to the white. Quick dollop of white. I've been took the excess off. Repaired. Back in the game. Hand. Now, guys, if you have questions in relation to what we're doing at any point, and you're watching this after it's been live, feel free to drop a message either here in SitRep, on the Facebook page. If you want certain content that we want to chat about and such, again, we are more than willing to get feedback and take that on board and test and adjust. I think it's probably the best phrase we can use as modern military wargaming channel. What do you reckon? So getting these fingers done, the meat of the hand, etc. It's got his thumb up on the screen, which is really cool. Obviously concentrating, working in small areas. About to go for the thumb. I can see into the collar now. It's just a touch there, which will probably be hidden when we do the flesh wash, but it'll still stand out because there's a white spot. There we go. How are we doing for time? I'm against the clock. 23 minutes. There's no deadline, but there is. I'm trying to keep it to 2 hours this time, or less. Because I think I went 2:15 on the last one. The good thing is, when I then painted the guy with the shirt off that I showed at the beginning, he took me 1 hour and 45, so it ended up being 4 hours for the two. But we were, or at least I think we meant to be aiming for about 1 hour a model. So I suck at that. It's probably because I waffle so much, steal oxygen from myself and have to pause to breathe again. It's never good. It's been a lifelong problem. I think my mum used to say I could talk a glass eye to sleep. But, you know, happy days. Cool. So happy with that. Now, I do want something that looks like a screen on the phone. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to whack on a bit of this blue, as in I'm going to thin it down and try and draw just a square on it to give me that sort of point of reference as if the phone had a screen. There's a good chance that they wouldn't even have a screen phone over there. I'm not sure what the average technological item was. Most countries, you know, they are pretty up to date. A lot of phones that arrive there come from the ones that you sell online when you've had enough. Right. So this time I'm actually going to keep the model flat. I'll turn it so the angle's a bit better, but we'll see how it goes for access. So I'm literally just going to dab this in, because I'm very wary of overdoing this. Doesn't look much like a blue at this point, but it gives me a visual point of reference to try and get a square onto it. Now it's just a bit of white above his thumb. Don't know if that camera's picking it up. Oh yeah, camera's just about picking it up. You'll see where I go in, and it should be. I push down towards the thumb without going too far onto it. There we go. So we've added a screen essentially. And that was just with a bit of dragging off. Now, where the light is, I want this side towards the center lighter. So I'm just going to dab again on that far side to give it some transient color. Then just pull it away a little bit. Tastes like chicken. Cool. Just need the bottom corner, which is not quite square. Cool. So yeah, there we have. So I'm just going to back to the cream a little bit. And this area that's sort of in shadow at the back, I'm just going to put it into the recess there. Keep the white at the top so it's nice and clean. Quick screen check. Yeah, we're good. He says, famous last words as I found out last time. Yeah, because I've used it for the shading in the other area, it makes sense to use it there as well. That's just enough, but he sort of looks like he's got his phone going. Enough for government work, so they say. And that leaves us the next layer of skin, essentially. No, not the next layer of skin, you bad lad. The next bit is, as many of you will probably be telling me anyway, if you're watching. I say many, that depends on when you watch. Reikland Flesh Shade. So, now I'm going to thin it, just going to chuck it on. Again, so I'm going to actually start in the recess of the cap this time to make sure I push in the heaviest amount. That'll cover any problems up there, but then I'm going to drag down his nose and his mouth before pulling across the mouth to make sure it's got a full, there we go, and under the nose. It's kind of the reverse of doing your highlights when you go up a colour. And I did that all off camera. That's 3. I think that's it for tonight. I hope, for everybody's sake that's watching. So initially I push up, so I'll just repeat the process. Push up into the eye area, get right up into the brim of the cap. It's not going to be seen. Drag down the nose. Drag across the mouth, down to sort of the chin line. And then quickly reload the brush, take off the excess. Pull the mouth across. Pull under the nose where the nostrils are and it leads the top lip to give the colour definition there. Just gives me good reference points. A complete pull across the cheek down. Take the excess off the eyes at this point, making sure to leave some in there. This guy's got a deep neck collar, so I'm going to spin him around like we did before. Can you see? Yeah. I'm going to push down rather than pull up, because I want the colour to sit in the recess. And by doing that, it gives me a bit more latitude to screw up. Because if I'm just pushing into what is over as a low point that's going to be dark, I don't need to be too tidy with it. Let's have a look. Yep, we're in. We've got some degree of separation. Just to shuffle back a bit. There we go. Yeah, we've got some degree of separation. We've darkened into his ear, but I don't want him to stay that dark. So I'm just going to pull the excess out. And we're going to go over the ear. Just a little more on. I want it darker towards the cap because that'll give me a nice line of reference for the shading of the cap. Back of the ear and the back of the neck. And I'm just going to pull across this time so I don't screw up the white. If I went up down, there's more chance of me screwing up the white. So I'm just going to let the tip just dab into the crease of the collar. Back up to the cap. You seasick yet? It's the seasick moment where I keep transitioning from position to position. Trying to keep it in shot this time. So again, pull it parallel with the collar so it gets a bit of colour at the collar, and that'll hide a multitude of sins. Pulling down the cheek diagonally across the ear, then up to the top of the cap again. Make sure the ear's loaded but not too much, so pull any recesses out. Cool, so he's already looking quite nifty. Quite good. Going straight into the fingers, you can see the forefingers there almost plainly. I'm very careful now not to touch the white, so I'm dragging away from the white across the fat of the fingers, making sure to try and get a decent amount of pigment between them because there's some really nice deep creases there for me to work with. Into the cuff, I can be a bit messy around the cuff because it's a black. Up to the phone, just pull the excess away. The thumb going round, pull the excess away, spin him. I'm just going to dab the top of the thumb so it should just sit around the edge of it. Got a bit on the screen, so I'm just going to pull that. Yep. Make sure there's nothing on the top side either. Cool. And then I've got a fingertip here. Cool. So, skin. You know what? He's not far off done. It's really weird. He's held a lot of the pigment because we pushed a lot up into the collar. Sorry, down into the collar and up into the cap area. He's managed to keep a lot of his original pigment. So initially I'm just going to go straight back in with the Bugmans, making sure it's watered down again. So although we put that on, it shouldn't take too long to dry. The face is pretty much already dry. So tip of the nose, small striations, gently into the top lip, bottom lip, chin. Got too much of the bottom lip there, so I'm just going to should get the flesh shade out to do quick repairs. So rather than try and pull it out the lip, which will spread it further and damage more of it, I'm just going to re-flesh shade it. A bit more. Cool, happy with that. Quick swirl. Back in the paint. So I hope you like this this guy. Like I say, he's got some interesting possibilities when it comes to gameplay for us. Well, any number of things really. Propaganda, dicker. Such a bad word to say, I suppose, but it's what's the reference that we use sometimes. For the cheeks, I'm actually just going to come at it from under the eye. So the edge of the mouth I can see, and I'm just going to pull diagonally across and up the cheekbone, leaving sort of this recessed area here initially. A bit more on there. I'm going to leave the eyes because they're fully under the cap. Same on this side. You can normally just catch the cheekbone going up and you end up with like almost an offset V. And then I try and feather down just a little bit and thin it out and pull the recesses, pull what's left to the recesses, and as it's thinned down it shouldn't take as much with it. I mean that you get a bit of a transition, like so, he says. I'm not happy with the ear, it's not dark enough in places. So quick blow to dry off the excess. I want a bit underneath and a bit more in. That's just a bit of Reichland back on again, as always. Cool. So yeah, this cheek's got a lot better than what I did on the other one. This is his best side when it comes to photography. Gonna thicken it up just a little bit. Take the excess off. Pull it to the recess, back of the ear, top of the ear. A little bit on the inside bottom. Do I want to give him hair? Probably not. So I'm just going to do some thin lines at the back, narrow into the bottom and widen them to the top. Try and give that sort of flattened skin look. I'm a fat guy. If you look at the back of my neck when I lean backwards, you get those small lines. Because I've got very short hair. I'm not bald, but... Well, I am. Just in the middle, though. Can't do anything fully right. Can't even go bald right. Cool. Again, another layer on the cheek at the top. And all we're doing is just building it up without going too much too quick. Tip of the nose. Left side of the nose. It's going to get the bottom of his chin. Chinny chin chin. As usual, got a bit on the white. So straight back in, quick repair. A little bit more on the collar, just on this side. Back to the joys of a wet palette. Cool, so happy with that. Now we're going for the fingers. These are on the underside, so although I'm literally, you could dry brush this, for example. This would be a place you could dry brush, because you're only after a certain highlight on it, a very small one, because the whole lot are essentially in shadow. Fingertips. So this takes me up to 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 13 that I'm doing. I think just for timeline purposes, what I'll get done on camera. One's already not been done on camera for that very reason. Happy with that. What are we doing for time? 8 minutes. Cool. So I've got enough time. I'm going to chuck a bit of... he is a very dark tone, so I'm going to bring him up just a touch with Cadian Flesh Shade. I'm going to mix it in with what we've already got there, which is Bugman's Glow. So this won't be a straight flesh shade, it's just a mix to bring it up a bit. Wow, that's really watery. Let's get rid of some of that. Better. And this will just be a final sort of attempt at highlighting the flesh. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, so as usual, once this is done, I'll put a picture up on the Facebook in a day or so with the final product. It is in a light box, but that's pretty much it. I don't faff around with the picture other than to crop it normally, because the light box does all the light work for me to make it very visible. It's amazing what you do and don't see on the camera, because although it is a reasonable camera that I'm using, it's obviously not thousands of pounds. It's a Logitech 922. You get them on Amazon. They're less than 100 quid, but it's doing its job really well. Just realised I need a bit more white because that phone edge there has just picked up a bit of flesh. I've not got enough left on my palette to work with. Just put in there a sec. Put that on there. Grab a bit of water. Thin him out. Sweet. So yeah, this section here in the hand, where the Ryclone flesh shade's just gone in, has just a little bit gone onto the phone. So I'm just going to sort that out. Yeah, that was it. It's weird. Sometimes you just want it to be perfect, but my friend G, who you know well, always says you can just keep going and keep going and keep going. You've got to bite the bullet. You've got to pick a point and go, right, he is, she is, that is done. So this looks like it's too loaded, so I'm just going to use it on top of the ear because it's an easy place to fix. He says top of the ear as he slips and stabs it into the middle. Well, he hasn't got any wax left in there now. On the underside, happy days. Honk honk, going for the hooter. I'm just trying to make it even all the way to the edge. Nice. His top lip, some of it's quite under, so I'm just going to do sort of one side and then to the other. So I'm going to stay away from the mouth that we had to repair because I was rushing last time. Just a bit on the bottom lip, a bit on the chin, and then as we did before, top of the cheekbone. And I'm just doing little pulls, so a few mil into the mouth, but you can use water and just pull it down back to the ear. Cool. Yeah, it's paled him up nicely. Pale face. I found out recently from the guys on SitRep that American helicopters are mainly called after different tribes of the nations, the tribal nations of the USA. Which makes sense when you think Apache, Chinook. I didn't know Chinook was one. That was something that was explained to me. Every day's a school day. And then just pull the extra bit. Cool. Back of the neck. It's got a fat neck. So there's like a line here, so I'm actually going to use that and just highlight up that bit as if the skin's all creased up, and leave the edges a little bit just by putting the odd line there after. So a little bit of work just behind because the cap won't cover that. Sweet. I think we're pretty much there. I think the last thing I'll do is just run some Reichland around the top edge. Hand looks good. Let's get the thumb again. Thumb's not been done properly on that side. Fingertip, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Sweet, sweet, sweet. So I'm just going to grab a bit of Reichland, run the edge. How are we doing for time? 3 minutes! I think this is the first time I've ever been close to being on time. Yeah. Well, for those guys that are tuned in, which is team members and friends, as you all are when you do tune in, because it really helps, one, motivate me, and two, we at the podcast really appreciate the support that you guys give us by coming online and seeing what we do and what we waffle on about and talk about. We hope it's useful. We hope you get something from it. Having constructive criticism and feedback is always welcome, because that's the only way we're going to get better, not by knowing what you want and what we can do to achieve that. We hope you're enjoying the 13 hours equals 13 days project. It's going to keep going strength for strength as the numbers grow. Friendly Forces, I think, are on the way there as well, with the GRS coming along nicely. And if you feel like helping us out, we do have a Patreon page. You can hit us up on Facebook. Obviously here on Twitch you can comment and give us some feedback there. There's lots of opportunities. The podcasts are downloadable, so you can check them out at your leisure. And we really appreciate all the help. Now, as you can imagine, this is me sort of running up to the end. Hopefully, otherwise, unless I find something like normal, end up chasing it. Excuse me. I've not drunk pop for too long. So we have yet another guy done. Just a quick once over. Let's make sure I'm happy with the shadowing in places. So I'm putting a bit more behind his ears, where I've lightened it up, and a bit more over his ears because the cap's really dug in there. So that running the cap line essentially. So there, where the cap just sort of covers. Sweet, sweet. So I hope you've enjoyed it. A model that's a little different. We have a MENA, so Middle East, North Africa. Spectre miniatures model. As you can see, it's got some great details on. I've had plenty of stuff that I can work with. Really happy with that and how it's come out. I hope you liked it. Got his Adidas kickers on. It's 502s, 501s. His bomber jacket up. I don't know what team he follows, but you could probably put him in a team based on the colours of the cap and the jacket now. We smashed in a mobile phone. We got some shadow for the screen of the mobile, so it gives it some... Oh, that was it. One last thing. I told you I was never going to be done. I wanted to give it a bit of a sheen. Larry medium. Is that enough to do? Yeah. So Larry medium. I'm just going to put a bit of this onto the screen. Try and add a bit of shine to it. Nearly did it. I was nearly on time. Maybe next time. Next time on time. Well, I don't know what that tastes like. I'm not going to stick that one in my mouth. So I'll just move that around, let that dry, and hopefully it'll give me some sheen to it. Cheers, Steve. Much appreciated. So we've gone from prime model to tabletop standard, a good tabletop standard, I think, using contrast paints that really help you as a guide, followed by layer paints just to tidy it all up. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show. We'll do one last walk and talk around him. Any questions, any thoughts, feel free to share. Got a good skin tone. He's come out quite nice. Really happy with him for a couple of hours work. So I'll get some photos up on the page and we'll go from there. Yeah, another one done. Another one done. 4 down, 9 to go. Getting there slowly but surely. So we'll finish out now with a word from our sponsors at Blacksite Studio. They do some awesome terrain. They'll fit any one of your theatres, any type of the tabletop games you play. No doubt you'll see some in the upcoming game that we're going to be playing for 13 days equals 13 hours. I hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great evening. And I will catch you again soon. Bye-bye for now.
Are you looking to become a Tier 1 operator in the gaming world? Elevate your games with Blacksite Studio Terrain.